All right, guys. What is the crack? Another podcast here. I have a great guest on him. Look, this guy's an interesting guy, okay? And I'm looking forward to finding out a bit more. So, guys, just like to introduce you to Karl Davidson from Cashflow Club Ireland. But I know that's not the only thing you do. So I'm going to let you take it away and tell us what you're up to.
Yeah, appreciate that, Dinny. So by trade, I'm an engineer, over nearly 10 years in the semiconductor industry. And it's given me a lot of knowledge, in terms of businesses, in terms of people, dealing with people, that sort of stuff. But also, I started getting into the kind of entrepreneurial endeavors when I was about 10. So when I was 10, if I'm going to start from the start, I might as well start when I was younger. So when I was 10, not to get too inundated with, personal stuff as well, because obviously I respect my family and stuff like that. But, my mom and dad split up when I was 8, right? So at around 10, I was kind of, looking at, making money, the traditional, like going around cutting grass. I didn't do that, but I did do, a paper route around my estate. So I was getting like €5 or £5, I think it was back then. That shows my age, didn't he? So anyway, I was getting £5 to deliver 200 papers. So that was kind of my first, way of kind of earning money, and that was, trading my time for money, like. And then 16 came. I remember when I was 16, I was like, right, time to legally get a job now in Ireland. So I got a job in the K Club. I worked there for 4 years. Again, surrounding myself with massive amount of wealth in the K Club. Like, I've seen, so many people from like all different walks of life, different businesses, big entrepreneurs, like, people coming in from Dubai, the French Secret Service. Don't tell anyone about that. And then like just being around that kind of wealth. I was at Gianfranco Zola's birthday party as well. That was a cool one
Claim to
as well.
fame.
So yeah, absolutely. Saw a good few, like the Irish Ray Houghton, Niall Quinn, all these boys. Like, it was absolutely incredible just to be around that and just kind of take it all in. But I still didn't know how they accumulated all this wealth. What did they do? Of course, yeah, some of them are footballers, but like after that, like what happens? Like, okay, they go into business, but how do they go into business? So I then went into engineering. I was good at, physics. I was good at maths. Numbers are kind of my thing, but they're not my thing, if you get me. Like, it's a bit of a kind of weird situation there I have got going with numbers. But so anyway, I finished my degree when I was 20. I went in at 17. For the first 6 months, I couldn't drink. So all the lads were all drinking out in the pub. So I was still getting my brother's ID as well, So that was great crack. And then finished when I was 20. But I remember I got offered a job. So I finished up at the end of May and I got offered a job in around the April timeframe. And I remember just saying to myself, wow, is this it? Is this, I'm finished my electrical engineering degree. And is this it now? I remember sitting in the DIT Kevin Street canteen, and if anyone's gone to DIT Kevin Street canteen, they know what the canteen is like. But I remember just sitting there to myself, and I was like, right, is this it? Do I now have to work for another 40, soon probably to be 50 years? And I was like, right, well, and it was at that point I was kind of like, there has to be another way or something, there has to, like, not everybody does that. The majority of people do, and it's great. It's fantastic. We have the societies that, we need those type of people in our lives, nurses, doctors, Garda, all that sort of stuff. And it's fantastic. But, it comes to a certain time in your life when you realize, right, is it for me? Right. And at that point, that came to me when I was 25. So 5 years traveling around, working on some of the most advanced semiconductor machines in the world, that make all these fancy microchips that are in Apple computers and phones and all that sort of stuff. So 25 hit me. I met a girl who then turned out to, a couple of months later, I proposed to her, and so we've been married ever since. So that's Brona, my wife. And yeah, she introduced me to Rich Dad Poor Dad, and that was it. That was the biggest, it like, without getting too like spiritual or religious, it was a rebirth. It was a whole phase shift And reading that just made me just think differently. And I was like, that was the thing that made me kind of think, right, this is it. Now I know what I want to do in my life. And then
Maybe Carl,
yeah,
just for the lads who are listening who don't know
yeah,
what
yeah.
Rich Dad Poor Dad is,
Oh,
tell us a tiny bit about that.
whoa. The rich don't work for money. They work for assets. They work for assets, which allows them to obviously, accumulate the luxuries if they want. It's basically, it's a financial education book.
Yeah,
Some people say it's a little bit like a self-help book,
yeah,
a personal finance book. People can even get triggered by it as well. Like, just even the word rich, like they just get triggered by it and they won't even read it, and it's fascinating. I find the psychology behind the money side and the wealth and the currency more fascinating than actually, doing it, earning it and stuff like that. But yeah, it's a great book. It's changed my life. I recommend it to everyone that I talk to, about financial education, whether it's crypto, anything. I'll recommend it. So yeah, it's a good starting block. From there you can kind of get going.
yeah.
So yeah,
I think it helps you. It doesn't tell you exactly what to do, but it sort of
yeah,
teaches you how to think differently. Because that's what I
yeah,
say to people. Um, when I lived in a mobile home, I've still the same silly head. It's just that I think differently now,
yeah,
and I understand how to generate wealth. And I didn't
yes,
when I had no money. I struggled with that stuff, and
yeah,
I'd also be a big fan. And Robert Kiyosaki is the author. There's for anyone who's unfamiliar with it. I'm sure most people have heard of Robert Kiyosaki, but if you haven't, you need to go and read
yeah,
Rich Dad Poor Dad. I'll stand over and say I'll recommend it too. But
yeah, absolutely.
that's awesome, Carl. So where
Uh,
are we up to now?
right now, 31 years of age, married for the last couple of years, had different businesses, online businesses as well. We're going to be starting a new gold and silver business now, actually tonight. So we're working out a few numbers, going over a few things, bit of information as well. I dabbled and have a crypto business as well. Started that, I believe, in around September of 2020. So during the whole time of the whole world, going into the pandemic and crisis and all that sort of stuff. And it was actually 2018, we started actually investing heavily into gold and silver, whether that's bars, big bars, or whether that's a few coins here and there. But yeah, that's kind of where we're at now. We launched the business back in January 2020. Then we decided to kind of change a little bit, pivot it in a different direction, and just to give us a bit of breathing space as well. So now with this gold and silver business, along with like the crypto business as well, and I've got clients as well. So find out, I just want to put it out there as well. This disclaimer, I'm not like a financial advisor. It's all based on education and teachings as well, like that, which is so important because I realized education changes situations. Eric Thomas says that education changes situations. So the more educated you get in anything, it can change your situation completely. Like, it doesn't have to be crypto. Obviously, we're talking about crypto. It doesn't have to be crypto. It doesn't have to be gold, silver. It doesn't have to be an
Yeah.
online business, traditional brick and mortar business. It can be anything, so yeah. So so
So let me rewind you a little bit and tell me about
yeah,
this
yeah.
gold business. How's it going to work? Are you going to sell gold or what's?
Yeah, I'm gonna get it at wholesale and then distribute it out. So it's gonna be interesting. I won't say too much to give it away, but
Sure.
yeah, it's gonna be an interesting one. So look, and at the end of the day, everything that you do is just the compound effect. It's you got to start somewhere. So it's the start that stops most people, right? And it's the same with fitness as well. I constantly use the whole fitness trainer analogy to having like a financial mentor as well. It's you got to start somewhere. You got to counter macros. You got to budget. You got to put in the work. You got to sell. Sales equals income. So yeah, it's yeah.
Deadly. So, and is it going to be like an online? Are you going to have actual bricks and mortar
Yeah,
store? Or?
yeah, no, it won't have bricks and mortar. It's going to be online. There will be let's say an online vault as well, but then you can get the physical silver and gold if you wish as well. And I deal with physical silver. I've got a a vault as well. So I'm super, super happy about that as well. You know, there's something, you know, when you get outside of the system, you know, and I'm sure we're going to talk about that as well. Like when you get outside of the system and you have a different perspective on the system, then anything that is outside of the system excites you. It doesn't matter. Like if you're an entrepreneur and an investor, it should, not all of it, but it should excite you, you know, because you're moving closer towards your goals. You're helping more people. And that's the biggest thing that I got from my financial education is, and I particularly when people get triggered by money, because we have this narrative that like the rich are greedy. And of course, some rich are greedy, and some, you know, working class people are greedy, and some poor people are greedy. You know, there's times in your own life where you'll take the extra bit of cake, you know, to feed your greed. Like, you know, it's a bad thing, of course, you know, but it's not just the rich are greedy. Like everyone can be greedy. It's just a matter about like, right, being able to be like, right, no, that's too much greed, or how much is too much greed. You know, that's a whole different perspective, right? But what I really realized about making more money and generating more wealth is the more people that you can help. And I want to really focus in on this. And for your listeners, Dinny, is that like, if you have X amount of money, let's say you have, and I say this time and time again, because I want to drill it home to people. If you have €1,000 in your bank account, you know, you can only help X amount of people with that €1,000. But if you had €100,000 in your bank account, you can help X plus more people. So it's all about helping, giving back as well, you know. So I just want to make that, you know, put it out there as well, because like you have to give in order to receive. You can't just keep and take and, you know, keep like and hold on to it as well, because, you know, the Egyptians tried that and they got robbed.
Yeah, it's
You know,
it's the scarcity mindset. I used to
yeah,
suffer from it, and I
yeah,
never wanted to invest my money.
yeah,
And it was only when I
absolutely,
learned that if I can spend money on a course and it teaches me how to make more money, well, what are you
100%.
doing hodling your money in the bank when if you can
Yeah,
spend it, they tell you how
yeah,
to add a zero to what you're sitting in the bank, and then you can
exactly.
afford a better course, which you can add another zero. So
Yeah,
you sort of the lesson I always say is if I can spend €1 to earn two back, well, what are you even thinking about it for? Every time you get that
exactly.
euro, just get rid of it.
Yeah, yeah,
You
hundred
know,
percent, hundred
and turn
percent.
it into two. But
Yeah,
I think it's exactly what you're talking about. So you understand the physical,
yeah,
like physical money will say, like gold and silver.
yeah.
Real money will say,
Real money, real
not
money.
currency. So
not
you
not
understand
printer
store
go
of value.
burr.
How is your understanding? Would you go with the narrative that Bitcoin is the dematerialized version of gold, or how does that sit with you?
I wouldn't think so. I know it's been kind of like, you know, banned or not banned. Like it's been thrown around that like, oh, Bitcoin's the new silver. Like anyone that is an investor will understand that they're in two totally different asset classes. So Bitcoin's in your digital, or, you know, nearly paper asset, but more so digital asset. Gold, silver, precious metals, commodities. It's in different asset class. So kind of compare them is not really correct, let's say, you know. And you can compare them because like you could get access to them. You can get access to both gold, silver. You can get access to crypto. Like, you know, it's just as easy to buy crypto as it is to buy gold and silver. Like, you know, but did I answer your question there, Dinny? I kind of I think I went off on a little bit of a tangent.
No, not fully. I'm still waiting to see. So you wouldn't agree that a Bitcoin is gold 2.0 then? You don't see
um,
Bitcoin dematerializing gold. You don't see Bitcoin demonetizing gold over the next 10 years.
Definitely not. No, I think I see it as an add-on. I see it as a, you know, a part of your portfolio. If you look at any of the big investors, any of the true big investors, they will have gold, silver, they will have property, they will have, you know, traditional brick and mortar businesses, and they'll also have crypto, like, you know. So like it's about being diversified, and not just diversified in one asset class as well,
Sure.
you know. So it's I have heard that, you know, oh, you know, Bitcoin is the new gold, and in a sense, you know, it's a new way of exchanging, you know, value, you know, just like gold and silver. Like, you know, it's a new way of exchange of value that we haven't had in, you know, since we started printing money and, you know, made banknotes and stuff. But it's been always then kind of coming back to then thousands of years, gold, silver, you know. So yeah, so it's an interesting one there, Dinny. Now, interesting one.
I'll hit you with a hard question now.
Yeah, go for it.
So we've higher inflation levels than
Yes.
you or I are on this planet,
Yeah.
and gold is the hedge against inflation.
Absolutely.
Why has it not performed in your investment thesis?
Oh, that is a good question. Wow. I don't know, Dinny. I'm not like, you know, I wouldn't know. You know, I'm surprised that it hasn't performed in the same sense as Bitcoin, like in terms of like the percentages, like but I think because people don't like change, they're afraid to adapt. You know, they're afraid to go forth with, like, let's say Bitcoin, cryptocurrency and stuff like that. So they kind of want to invest with what they know as well. But
Well,
in order,
that's what I would have thought,
yeah,
like I'm asking the question because I was stumped as well. I expected
yeah,
gold to do better in 2020. I was like,
mm,
load up because
yeah, yeah,
money printers are going burr,
yeah,
and
yeah,
you need to be in gold. But then, like
yeah,
2 years later, it's done nothing. But
mm,
cryptos have performed. So, like a lot of the money or some of the money has to have, instead of choosing the physical, it's chosen the digital. Like, so
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
just sort of pushing back a little bit just to see how that
yeah,
fits you, or do you
absolutely,
have a reason for why that happened? Because I was as confused as you. No, I don't think
yeah,
gold is broken. I just think it's a slow mover. Gold mightn't
yeah,
do anything for a decade, and then 2030 it reprices itself to 10 grand or something. Who knows?
yeah, absolutely. I think as well, like it's an interesting one. You got to look at the governments, right? You got to look at what they're doing, and you got to look at the top countries in the world. Um, what's the top country in the world that has the most amount of gold? Like, they're the ones that make the rules. So, like, you know, and you know, I know we're not governed by them, like, but we are. And I think when you have, like, historically, when you have the gold and the silver, you know, it's the one with the most gold and silver at the table wins, you know,
Yeah.
because they, like, I don't know why that is. It is, you know, and you know, if you look at the big countries, they're the number one, the number twos, number threes, like, and maybe, I don't know, maybe it, like, with the progression of technology over the last like 20, 30 years, where there's more computing power in your phone than, you know, geez, 20, 30 years ago, like the size of like a transistor, the microchip was absolutely massive, whereas now it's nanotechnology. Like, you know, it's just easier for the retail investor. It's just easier for, you know, the ordinary Joe Schmo to get into Bitcoin. Whereas, like, I still get asked, like, by people who are on this planet 50, 60, 70 years, how do I get gold and silver? Like, you know,
Yeah.
and I'm like, but I think in a subconscious level, we all know that, like, if you don't have to have a lot, but if you have gold and silver, there's that, you know, protection or even generation feel, you know, to it. And I think it's not that it's swaying towards more of crypto. It's just more people are getting interested in crypto because they're seeing the returns and they're like, wow, like, you know, I can literally invest a little bit. I'm not saying do what you need to do. But like, if I do invest in a bit of cryptocurrency and then hold it, you know, for a year, 2-3 years, and boom, like, I could be buying a new house, like, you know, depending on how much you put in. So it's a really interesting one, like, and time will tell, you know, that's the
Right.
big one, Denny.
So yeah, maybe, yeah. So the volatility in it is
Mm,
more attractive to the retail investor rather than, you know, buying a bit of silver coins or gold
mm,
coins. They're not going to do a 10x,
yeah.
you know. So I suppose if you're going to take the more speculative bet, it's like the lotto ticket. You want the one that's going to give you the most bang for your
Yeah,
buck, I suppose.
absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about Cashflow Club Ireland, because that's pretty interesting what you're at there.
Yeah, so, wow, good question. We started that back in, I think it was 2016, 2017. And we were doing obviously a lot of travel, and my wife, I think it was like at 2, she couldn't sleep. It was 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning or something. The next day, she said, like, let's set up a Cashflow club in Ireland. And I was like, all right, fair enough, like, and she's the brains behind the operation. I'm just the beauty here, So yeah, so we decided, okay, yeah, set up a Facebook group, and we started holding a few events, and then we traveled over to China. We spent some time in China, and
Just
we
to
were playing
explain to
cash.
us about cash flow for people who've never heard of
Yeah,
it.
right. That's actually a great question, right? So cash flow, the easiest way of explaining the cash flow board game is it's like Monopoly, but kind of like on steroids. But it gives you an introspective look about how you deal, not just with money or currency, but how you deal with situations and people as well. So, and not to give too much away, because like I don't want to get, I don't want to have have people try and make an idea of, oh, is it for them? Like, it's a board game, it's a bit of fun, it's a bit of crack, like we've played it online, like it's a bit of crack, like, but it also, it can help you so much. Like, I remember the first time I played it, I did exactly what I was programmed to do, and I ended up going broke, and I ended up just getting in massive amount of debt. And it was the biggest learning for me ever. I remember it was like we spent the weekend down in Galway, and it was raining down in Galway, of course, and we said, right, we'll play a bit of cash flow. And I did, like, within the first, it was about 5, 6, 7 goes, I did exactly what I was programmed to do by society, and it, like, I just was broke. And I was like, wow, that was my biggest learning, like one of my biggest learnings. And it's a fantastic game, and we host regular cash flow board games. Obviously, with the whole pandemic and stuff like that, we couldn't do it. Just the whole logistics of it was just an absolute nightmare. People brought it online and stuff like that, and you can play it online. It's just not the same. I prefer people. I prefer interacting with people.
Yeah.
I think it's more enjoyable. It's more collaborative, and yeah, it's fantastic. And I think we'll have another event coming up, maybe at the March. I was going to say the end of February, but probably the March timeframe. So keep an eye out on it on the Cashflow Club Ireland group. So
Yeah, it's awesome. We played online, and
yeah,
it's you just get used to actually trying to run your own balance sheet and just
yes,
basically cash flowing you as a person, like a
yeah,
company does, like we do for our
yeah,
companies. We use balance sheets, but
absolutely, yeah,
people never think of them for their own personal finances. So you actually know
yeah,
what's coming in and what's going out first before you even start trying to accumulate wealth. You need to know what position you're in, and what assets you hold and what liabilities you hold. And obviously, the game is to get more assets than liabilities. It sounds easy, but I think the cash flow board game, for me, it taught me, well, unless it's down on paper, you're just, as you
yeah,
say, farting around. And when you're farting around, you're just going to do what you're conditioned to do. And what you're conditioned to
yeah,
do is, well, like, we don't get any financial education in school.
yeah,
So, we generally, we do poorly at it unless we externally educate ourselves.
yeah, yeah.
And learning to do a cash flow, um, a financial statement, like, is just
Oh,
the
massive.
basics. Yeah.
It's so basic, but yet, like, it's so transformative as well.
Yeah.
Like, like, like I know people that, like, top executives, like accountants and stuff like that, and I ask them, like, do you have a budget? And they're like, no. And I'm like, but that they work the budgets for these companies. I'm like, you need to take control of that. Like, you need to be responsible for your own growth, your own, like, wealth generation. You don't want to be growing someone else's business. You want to grow you. And then if or when you decide to, make your business, then you grow that. Like,
Yeah, it's
you know,
funny. Sometimes, like, we'll do stuff for, when people have jobs, they'll always tell me how organized they are and everything. And
yeah,
then, like, in their own personal life, I'm like, why don't you do all that stuff? Because you're really
yeah,
good at it. You just don't do it for you.
yeah, yeah. Do you know why? Like, part of the reason that is because they're not actually getting paid for it up front. They like, and that's the difference between the entrepreneurial mindset and then the employee mindset. And, this instant gratification that they get, it's like, okay, I'll do this job and I get paid. And we've been conditioned all of our life from the ages of like, 3, 4, 5, all the way up to school, past school into the job. And that's like, it can be okay, but if you don't like it, then you have to change it. You have to look outside. Like when you start looking outside, getting the information off yourself when it comes to crypto and stuff like that, then you start looking inside and it's like, right, what do I have to change, in order to achieve my goals, in order to achieve my financial goals as well,
Yeah, and I think I've always been that way. That
Nice.
I don't know, like I have no problem working for free for years if I'm building
Yeah,
something, if I'm passionate about
absolutely.
it. It's like the money's
100%.
not something I don't need to get paid off it now. Maybe it's just that
Yeah,
I, like yourself, I've been an entrepreneur for 13 years nearly now, that I understand you don't
nice.
start a business and earn money. Like you don't get a paycheck
Yeah,
at the end of the month of the
yeah,
first business. You might do 5 years of grind and graft, and then it might just fail.
yeah.
But
Yeah,
the one that succeeds, but like it's not like hours in means money in the bank. Certainly not when you're an
yeah,
entrepreneur. Like I
yeah.
think I had I had Guillaume on from Dublin Chauffeur Services there last week, and he was the very same. It's like when you become an entrepreneur, like you go from working 40 hours a week to 100 hours a week.
Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
know, but it's kind of because you're working on your own passion, maybe you deal
Yes.
with it better. Like, and
Yeah,
it's kind of interesting, as you say. It's not for everyone. I've been employee and entrepreneur, and I
yeah,
see great things on both sides. And the grass is always greener. You know, when you're an entrepreneur, you're like, oh, I wish I could just go away on holidays and just tell
yeah.
someone I'm going away and not have to answer the phone or do all the stuff. And then when I was an employee, you're like, oh, I wish I was the boss here and I could just do this, that, and the other.
Exactly.
Like, so there's pros
Exactly.
and cons with everything.
Exactly.
Um, into crypto, talk to me a little bit.
Yes.
What have you looked at? Have you looked at
Yeah.
NFTs or DeFi or
Yeah. So I started getting into crypto. I heard of crypto back, a few years ago. I'd say around the 2016, 17 mark. Didn't really think much of it. Like, not that it was like, not that I'm skeptical. Like, I think a lot of people, you can
you're
be
a man of the
skeptical.
physical?
Yeah. No, you can be skeptical or you can be rich, but you can't be both.
Yeah,
But with the skepticism, you can be a critical thinker. If you're going to dismiss something without any sort of information or do any sort of courses on it, that's the height of ignorance. And closed minds don't get fed, right? And that's it. You're going to stay exactly the way you are. And that's it. You're going to keep complaining. You're going to blah blah blah, right? You're going to say all what you've been repeating yourself for 20, 30, 40 years, right? So when I started getting into crypto, like I didn't fully understand it, like, but I said no, like this, like my brain works in a way that, like, I will, when I see something, I don't necessarily get it straight away. I need to study it. I need to analyze it a little bit. I need to, think about all the different scenarios. Like I started to learn how to play chess in 2018 when I was in China, believe it or not. And it was like all about the strategic moves and stuff like that. And you have to be, in a way, as an entrepreneur, you have to have a strategy. You have to have an exit strategy. You have to have a marketing strategy, sales strategy, branding strategy. You have to have some sort of plan. So when I saw kind of crypto in 2006 or 2016, 2017, I didn't know much. It was just at my early start of financial education. I hadn't a real clue. I only listened to people that said, "Oh, that's a load of hokum, blah blah blah. Don't go near. It's too volatile, blah blah blah." All this sort of stuff, right? But then I started, having a bit more of an open mind and started going, well, hold on a minute here. Like, there's bigger people, getting involved in this. Like,
yeah.
let's start looking into this. Like, and then, I was like, okay, fair enough. Like, and what's the worst that can happen, Dinny? At the end of the day, like, you lose a bit of money. Okay, yeah, you can lose a lot of money, but at the end of the day, you get it back. If you're able to make a substantial amount of money, then your wealth thermometer should be able to get that back relatively soon. That's why all these big billionaires and multimillionaires, they go broke, and everyone's like, "Oh my God, you see your man there or your woman there, she went broke." And like within the next couple of years, they've made even more because their wealth thermometer is up there. So if you lose money, so what? You get it back. You know, you don't like when you lose time, that's it, that's gone. But you lose money, you can get it back all the time. Like, so I never take, you know, the fact that, oh, I've lost money in any sort of industry as like a loss. It's never a loss. It's always a learning, like, you know, without getting too motivational there, Dinny. Like,
Yeah,
you know, it's all a learning. Like, and at the end of the day, you don't want to be on your deathbed at like an 80 years of age or 85 and be like, oh my God, remember that €500 that I lost on crypto? Like, oh my God, I really regret that. You're not going to remember that, like, you know, because you're going to have such a buzz, collected more information, more experiences, going on different courses, getting different mentors, and you know, you'll just have lived a life. But you will regret the chances that you didn't take. You'll be like, oh, why didn't I do that? Like, you know, like, it's like, I remember when I first started working in the company, like the engineering company, the stock was at about, I think it was like 30 odd euro or something like that. Now it's at 650 or something like that. It's the biggest learning that I've ever had. Like, do I regret not buying the stock then? No, because I didn't. I was just out of college, I had no money, I was broke. And then, like, you know, like, it's just been a big learning, like, you know. So then I know I went off in a little bit of tangent there, but like, coming back into 2018, you know, I started obviously doing more investing in gold and silver. But then I was like, right, well, what about Bitcoin? What about cryptocurrency? Like, you know, it's been around for like 9 years now. Like, you know, it's, if anything, it would have gone by now. It's usually with any sort of, not investing, but any sort of business, after the 5 year mark, if it's still in business, you know that it's doing something right. It may
yeah,
not have gotten where it needs to get, but after 5 years of still being in business, you know that it's making traction, basically, like, you know. So I said, right, grand, start having a bit more of an open mind. You know, I did get onto you. I think it was 2019. You mentioned about the crypto app and stuff, like, and I was like, okay. And then I think it was 2020. You introduced me to an automated crypto platform, so I was like, jump on that. Like, why not? Like, I mean,
yeah,
why? What's the worst that can happen? Like, and I always put it down to three scenarios. Worst case scenario is you lose your money, right? That's literally the worst case scenario. And if you're going in and you don't have a pot to piss in, and you're putting your last three, four, 500,000 euro into something, then more fool you. Like, you know, you need to get educated first. You need to take a course with Dinny. You know, you need to get educated. But that's the worst case scenario. Lose a bit of money. As I said, you can get that back. The most probable scenario is you get your money back and you make a little bit of profit. And then that's the most probable scenario. Like, you know, it's like a bell curve. The majority of people are going to get their money back and are going to make a little bit of profit, right? Now, how big that profit is obviously depends on how much money they put in the first place, right? And then the best case scenario is you've quit your dead end job, you're going off and you're living your life in the Bahamas or wherever. Like, that's literally the best case scenario, right? So I always just kind of weigh up the options, you know, weigh up those scenarios, right? So then I jumped in with the platform of you as well, and I was like, you know what, this is good, and this is working for me. But I haven't delved deep
yeah.
into crypto, you know. It's still quite surface level. I'd know a lot more than the average person because I have researched it,
You've got your
you know.
toe dipped in. You
Yeah,
know, you're paying
absolutely,
attention to it because I suppose the best way to learn
100%.
about that is to own some. You know, and you don't
Yes.
have to learn
Oh, big
immediately,
time.
but once you have the toe dipped in, you're
Yeah,
in the game a little bit.
yeah.
And like I think the transit because I understood gold and silver
Hmm.
before I understood Bitcoin, I found it was quite an easy transition when I took a deep dive into
100%.
Bitcoin
Yeah,
because like you mightn't agree with me, and that's fine. We can all disagree, but I view Bitcoin as sound money. You know, just as
yeah,
I view gold as sound money.
yeah,
Um, and so for me, it was just like, well, this is a
yeah.
digital version, and the world's gone more digital. And whether
100%.
you know I understand it or I'm okay with something that's dematerialized or something that I can't touch, something that's intangible, it doesn't
Yeah,
matter. The kids behind me live in the digital world. They
100%.
get skins for computer games. They get FIFA points. Like, what are they getting?
Yeah,
They're basically asking for. I don't want something physical. I want something digital. So they
yeah,
intrinsically already understand it. So that's
yeah,
the move that's the world we move to.
yeah,
Whether I can get it, or anyone else can't get the fact that, that a lot of the things in our world have already been dematerialized or turned into
Yeah,
software. And
100%.
why would store of value not be the same? Now, whether that takes 50 years or a decade
Yeah,
or 100 years, I don't know. But I don't see a futuristic world where we are immersed in a metaverse that we are using a physical when everything else is digital.
yeah,
But the timeline,
100%.
I don't know.
Yeah,
Um, but that's pretty awesome, man. What else do I want to ask you here? Have I got through all my questions? We talked a little bit about Cashflow Club
yep.
Ireland. So I suppose I'll ask you, what would your advice be? You being the cash flow man. So let's say I've no investing. I don't do any
Yeah.
investing, but I'm after reading Robert Kiyosaki and I'm after understanding
Nice.
I've been thinking like a poor dad all my life and I want to start thinking
Okay.
like a rich dad.
Yeah.
What's maybe one or two easy steps for someone to take to try and get, on the financial ladder?
Yeah. I always kind of bring it back to basically why did you get started in the first place? Like what was the trigger for you to pick up, let's say Robert Kiyosaki or any sort of other book as well, like,
I
in
want
terms
more
of
money.
financial education, and then it comes down to, well, why do you want more money? What are you lacking in your life that you need more money? You
A
know?
Ferrari.
Lovely. But then it's a case of like, why do you want the Ferrari? Is it a case of like you want the Ferrari because you want to show off to your friends, or
I
you
want to
want
hear that bad boy, man.
so it is a case of like basically, why did you get started? And to hone in on the kind of why you got started, not your why as they say, oh, do things because of your why and stuff. But why did you get started, right? Remember why you got started, because it's gonna be an emotional roller coaster, because money, currency, financial education, taxes, all that sort of stuff, they say money doesn't bring you happiness, but I've never seen someone cry when they get paid, unless they look at the amount of tax that they are after have to pay in as well. But I've never seen someone being like, oh my god, it's payday, my head's wrecked. Like, do you know what I mean? It's like, yay, it's payday. Like, when people win the lotto, they're celebrating with champagne. Like, money is such an emotional subject. Currency, wealth generation, financial education, such an emotional subject. So when you start, like, know that you're going to be triggered. Know that you're going to be triggered by even certain words that people say, even like, oh, the rich are greedy, blah blah blah, like, oh, they should do this, or they should give out more money and all, and they do blah 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 and blah blah blah, all this sort of stuff. But the one thing is, because it's an emotional roller coaster, never ever get off the roller coaster when you're upside down. Stay on it, stay the course. Buy into a course, get a mentor, get like someone who has experience, who has the knowledge as well. Start thinking about what it is that you like to do. If time and money were no problem, like if you had all the money in the world and all the time in the world, what would you do? And if that was like, oh, travel the world, or go set up an orphanage in Africa or whatever, start working your way towards doing that. Do what, like, I know this sounds cliche as well, it's like, do what brings you life. I love working with people. That brings me life. I love hosting Cashflow board games. I love seeing those moments where people just just that shift. It's like ding, and it's like their eyes are wide open. Like, I love that. I love talking to people, sitting down with my clients, and it's like boom. It's that. Like, I love sharing stuff. I live by the Chinese proverb. They need that. Like, if someone gives you something of value, and you benefit from it, you have a moral obligation to share with others. Like that. That's how I live my life. If someone gives me something and I benefit from it, it's like, right, I'm gonna like pay it forward, bless it forward, whatever you want to say. I'm gonna give it forward. So when you're starting off, like, start dabbling in a few things, like, jump into the crypto industry, jump into real estate course, whatever, jump into, something, get your feet, like, get your toes, dip your toes in, stop sitting in the, like, I kind of imagine my life as like football match where there's so many spectators. Like, stop being a spectator and start playing the game. Like, it's all just a big game, you know. It's literally a game, and how you play better is that you get better, you get better team, you upskill yourself, you get more knowledge, you start delving in more, you go to events. I don't know how many events I've been in the last number of years, amongst incredible speakers and people. You know, just immerse yourself in it and watch it just change, or your whole life change. Like, the money comes, and it's not even just about, like, let's say the currency, or like, oh, €1,000 comes in or something like that. It's the opportunities, it's the people that you meet, like the likes of you and me, Dinny. Like, you know, you mentioned there, it's like all this kind of metaverse and this virtual, like, we're doing it right now. We're in this kind of virtual world where, like, we're talking, we're having a crack, we're buzzing off each other, like, you know. And it's like that to me is like incredible. I won't be able to sleep tonight, Dinny. Like, I'll be that worried. I'll be like, oh, how did that go? Like, you know what I mean? So just, you know, be around people as well, and because you can learn so much. And I get it when people are a little bit introverted and they're a little bit like, because me and you were both quite extroverted people, like, and I get it if you're a little bit introverted, but tap into that, tap into, you know, the introvert of you as well, and just being like, right, well, why am I introverted? Like, oh, well, this, and what if I wasn't? Like, start kind of like just being a little kid again, and just imagining things and questioning things as well. I know I went off on one there, Dinny, but like,
There was
it's
a
just
lot in
because,
that. There was a lot in
yeah,
that, from
you know,
education to getting around the right people to
yeah,
challenging yourself to investing
mm,
into courses, and you know, it's all gold, and we've all done it.
yeah,
And I would
yeah,
argue the point. I am a bit more of an introverted person. I just had
yeah,
to. I knew that wasn't gonna. I couldn't go anywhere if I done that. Like, so.
yeah,
Generally,
yeah,
I'm you know, online. I'm like, but like in real life, I'm sort of quiet. I'm like happy enough to be on
yeah,
my own and everything. It's fine.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
but Carl, that was awesome. Where can the guys follow you, find you?
Yeah, so you can join the Cashflow Club Ireland group if you want. You know, you can find me on Facebook, Karl Davidson, Instagram, following Karl Davidson. I have Snapchat there. I'm not too busy on Snapchat, LinkedIn as well. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Not on TikTok yet because I lived in China, so I won't say any more on that.
Carl,
You know,
man, that was awesome. Thanks for coming on.
no worries. Appreciate the opportunity, Dinny. Thank you so much, and keep doing what you're doing. It's fantastic.